But so could you touch on the idea of allowing the original authors to teach us how to read their work rather than trying to decide
how they should have done it
beforehand, how they should have done it? Do you come across that challenge in sort of modern day conversations about the Bible?
Yes, I mean, I think with the gospel, sometimes translations don't help. So some words seem to have a temporal reference. It sounds like to us in our straight reading, it's like the next day or the next thing that happened. Whereas the Greek is ambiguous. It can be a way of just going, and here's another thing. But the literal translation doesn't say that, because everyone would have understood it as they read it, that it's not saying exactly what we think it says. So you have to be careful with the language. And what is an acceptable retelling of something that is true, but not every detail is precise. And we do it all the time, and we don't worry about it when we're telling our testimony or something. People, if they heard my testimony, if they hear the 5-minute version and the 20-minute version, or even longer if they're willing to stay around for it, if you only heard one of them, you might come to some conclusions about what happened which when you hear the bigger story, you don't. It would be clarified that it didn't happen quite like that. So the gospel writers are writing with a purpose, and generally you can detect what that purpose is. The basic framework is the same, especially in the first 3 gospels. And John doesn't contradict really that, although there's a few things where you have to work out what's happening. But they're not trying to tell you his diary every day. They're not saying, if you had a video camera, this is exactly how it would look or what it would say. And we know that because the Sermon on the Mount, takes 10 minutes? No sermon in the whole of Scripture is more than a few minutes long, really. So if you push that, we all know that, but sometimes we get stuck, because if we're going to be biblical about preaching, there's all sorts of things we wouldn't do. We wouldn't preach very long if that's exactly what Jesus said. Partly it's just thinking a bit further about what is accurate storytelling, and what were they trying to do. They were not trying to write, as I say, the diary of Jesus. That's not their purpose. And that can be a little uncomfortable, because that's how we naturally read it, and trying to work out, okay, what can I deduce from this? And a lot of the time it's not trying to teach us geography. That's not the point. It is, or the sequence of events is not quite as important as we might think it is. And you see that in Gospels. Some of it is obviously topically arranged, if you look at it sensibly. But you could read it as though this